Backing by James Nolan. How are things, James?
Good, Dave.
Good stuff. James, things are going well. Horses are running well lately. You must be happy with the way they're going.
Yeah, we are. Good start to the winter. We're nothing for the summer, so it was an important month or 6 weeks because our better horses were starting to run. So if they weren't winning, it was going to be a long winter.
I'm looking forward to probably your most exciting horse is this Kurama. He'll run on Sunday in the Tri-Town Chase. You happy with him?
That's the plan. Yeah, he's in good nick. He came out of Wexford well. We didn't have a tough race in Wexford. It wouldn't be his place. But it took the pressure off us, I suppose, when you're getting him ready for first time in a big race like that in a big handicap. To have a run, it makes it easier for us at home, you know. But yeah, he's fresh and well.
Obviously, you always want to have lighter weight, but top weight won't really bother you. You'd be taking £5 off as well, will you?
Yeah, the plan is that Sean rides him, and he's a valuable 5. I mean, he's flying, he's a great chap. I don't think it's what he's carrying is not the problem, it's what he's giving away. I mean, he's carried big weights. I mean, some horses can carry big weights, but he's carried whatever, 12 stone in a 4 miler in Cheltenham, and he's, you know, when he's beginner chasing maiden hurdle with big weights. I think that's the worry. It's just the weight that you're giving away. I mean, you're giving away maybe a stone and a half to some fancy horses. That's the problem. And
all this downpour rain that we're getting is in your favour as well for this Kurama.
Yeah, more the better. Loves soft ground. And Navan would really suit him. I don't know if Navan up that part of the country is getting as much rain as us, but it'll be soft anyway.
In terms of, like you said, the getting him ready for this big race, big handicap, he's not that experienced either over fences. He has only had 6 runs over fences, but that's not an issue, I'm sure, for you. He jumps very well, and he's fairly solid in that regard. He
does, touch wood. He does. He jumps well. He got a fall in Ace last year. It was only his 3rd run. He jumped really well the first day in one of his beginners, and he in the Drinmore was on goodish, niceish ground.
Over 2.5 as well.
And they were going very quick and took him off his head a little bit, and Brian was trying to get a position and never really could, and he jumped well in the business end of the race, but maybe not till he got, you know, kind of 4 out. He was very novice. And then he got a fall in Ace after jumping really, really well. Maybe a little careful early, and then got really good. And what we'd like to think that he was coming to beat Ballyward in a graded novice that day.
The bump wouldn't have helped either, though.
Yeah, they got tight. They got tight by the wing. But still, look, he got the fall, but he had been good. His jump and touch wood has been good, not an issue. I mean, when you've been around Cheltenham in the 4 miler and you jumped the way he did on that day, and then came back and was second in the Grade 1 in Punchestown. You know, I think he's enough experience.
And in Wexford, the last day when he was behind Champagne Classic, was that always the plan, just to start him off there with the idea of going to the Tri-Town?
Well, that or Newbury. You know, he was either going to go straight to Newbury or the Tri-Town, and then when Wexford came up soft, we said, look, let's get him started, and if it came his way, it came his way. We went to Wexford hoping we could win. It's a listed race. But on the day, but on the day, Gordon's horse had run under his belt, and I think that maybe he was sharper on that track than we were. Our horse is a kind of a behind the bridle horse, who I think Navan would suit an awful lot better.
And like you mentioned, the Ladbrokes Trophy, which people will remember better for the Hennessy around Newbury, that's Saturday a week later. What was your thinking behind going for the Tri-Town rather than going to Newbury?
Well, it was discussed plenty with myself and Paul and Tom and Andrew over the last while about which race. And I would say if Newbury had been testing ground, and if he had 10-4, 10-5 or something like that. But in Newbury, he'd 11-1. So it wasn't that he was, you know, there was no real high rated top horse for this year to keep the weights down. And Newbury looks like it could be like good soft ground, you know. So therefore that kind of swung it towards Navan then. Because like, I mean, it is just 8 or 9 pounds more in Navan. It's not a stone and a half in the difference in the weights. And we discussed it with Davy Russell and Brian. Davy rode him in Wexford, but Brian obviously knows him best of riding him all year. That the one concern we would have had going to Newbury is that in a race like it, it's such a frantic race that that he would he ever have a good position because of the way he races, taking his time early on, and maybe get caught out, go down the back in Newbury. So with the way he runs his races, the way it suits him, we just thought Navan would suit better. So I suppose that's one towards Navan and ground being a major issue.
I know you're not one to thinking too far ahead about only what's on hand, but after Sunday, whatever happens, any plans going forward for him? The Welsh National, you'd imagine, would be an ideal race for him. I know he's rated 149, and it's kind of suited over the years for horses with lesser weights, but twice in the last 3 years it's been won by horses above rated 150, and so it's a right test around there. Would that come into play?
Definitely, if he runs a good race on Sunday, it's definitely part of the plan. It was kind of something that we discussed straight after the 4-miler last year, straight after Punchestown, was Welsh National, and with the dream in the end that he might end up in an entry horse. But without doubt, if he comes out of Sunday's race well, win, lose or draw, and run a good race, the Welsh National is he'll be definitely put in it anyway.
Another very exciting horse that you have, his latest exhibition. He was impressive when he won his maiden hurl in Galway a few weeks back, and I know you never want to get beaten, but you were very happy with his run, beaten by Gordon's horse the last day in Navan over a trip that you'd imagine is definitely short of what he's going to be at his best.
I'd say the further he goes, the better he'll be. He's a good horse. He surprised me over that trip. In hindsight now, we'd regret that he ran there, even though he ran well, that he's not in this weekend for the Monksfield, but which looks a good race as well. All these novices now with the standard of horse that Gordon and Willie Mullins and Nolan Mead and Henry de Bromhead and these guys have, all those races are going to be very, very good. But I'd say our horse is a very good horse. If he can be kept right, could make a smashing chaser. But he surprised me with even over that trip how well he ran, and we'll see where he goes now. There's a couple of options for him. There's another graded race in Navan around the 12th of December, 2.5. There's a 3-mile one in Cork. There's the grade 1 in Naas for Christmas, and the Albert Bartlett being kind of, we'll say, looking down the road. If you had a cut in the ground in Cheltenham, that's where he might end up. That's the dream anyway for this season. And I suppose the thinking behind maybe running him over shorter distances was that he's a very inexperienced horse for his age. He'd only run in 2 bumpers before
he's 6-year-old now.
Yes, he just a very big horse and just was very backward and immature, and just took a long time to be able for it. Running him over lesser distances, I suppose we were thinking that until he learns how to race properly was only going to save him for later in the year. But he's had 2 good runs there now, so it's now time to maybe find his right trips. But he's a good horse.
So I take it then he's going to skip that entry that he has in the Royal Bonds Hatton's Grace weekend in Ferryhouse.
Yes, he'll be taken out of that. And it'll be Navan. I would imagine probably Navan 2.5, and if we won that, we'd have every right to go to Naas. If we don't win in Navan, we'll sit down and see where we go from there. But I would say the Albert Bartlett is what we're thinking ultimately at the end of the day, and it would be great to not step up to the proper trip till you get to that, because maybe you'd have a fresh horse going to Cheltenham,
Yeah. Another Oscar horse that you have is Valentina Lady. She was very impressive when she won the last day in Naas on soft ground, which I would imagine that's what she's best on. She was second behind Gypsy Island, who unfortunately now is out for the season, and she had a disappointing run the next day when she was in Wexford. I think there was something wrong, but it's great to see her back and how impressive she was last week.
She was. We've always loved her. We've always thought a good bit of her. Michael Doran done a fantastic job with her. She was a little bit keen in her early days, and he rides her every day, and he's done a marvellous job settling her. And today in Naas behind Gypsy Island was a winner's bumper first time out, and we just thought Naas would suit her, not as big a field, and that day we went out with the thought of switching her off, settling her, and just to run a good race. The most important thing was to get her to switch off because she's keen, and obviously she ran a really good race, and you loved the way she went to the line, and Gypsy Island was the best mare in the country for the year, so we were thrilled with that run. She wasn't right in Wexford, and was wrong after it, and we left her off after it, and she came back, and we'd been very happy with her whole preparation for Naas, and we fancied her a bit, and she Julia Blythe, and I thought she won in good style, and I just loved the way she went through the line in this.
And she'll run on Sunday in the listed bumper.
She will. It's a bit of a gamble now, but John Brennan is totally understanding of it. I mean, black type for him going forward. She's a lovely pedigree and she's a lovely mare, and black type going forward is vital. And it's a listed race, so third to him in it, we want to win it, but third to him in it is probably worth more than winning a normal winner's bumper in the long run. So it's a bit quick. I mean, 15 days after the Nace race is not far from ideal, but she's ate up, she's fresh, she's well, she looks well, so we let her take her chance.
And will she go hurdling then, or what will
win, lose or draw on Sunday? She'll be hurdling at Christmas.
A horse who was very impressive on his first run for you in Wexford last month was Our Friend, a Shantou 4-year-old. He was very impressed from the 2.5 mile maiden hurdle and seemed to relish the heavy conditions that day in Wexford. He
did. It was a lovely run. Don't know how good of a maiden it was on the day. I mean, he only got in as a reserve. It wasn't the plan to go there. It was the plan to probably start off in a bigger track. But I just, for his first time, for what he's done, I love the way he travelled and jumped, and Kevin Sexton rode him on the day. Brian was out injured. You just liked the way he done it. Now, how good of a race it was, I don't know, but we've always liked him. He's a nice horse, he's got a lovely attitude. And he's in Gorn on Saturday in a novice hurdle, and there's another novice hurdle in Fairyhouse next week. So we'll take our time with him. He's a lovely horse. So we've no definite plans. We'll see if we'll run either this weekend or the following weekend, and we'll take it from there.
And with him entered in Gorn the weekend, is what's the thinking behind dropping him back to 2 mile?
Well, it's 4-year-olds only. Trying to keep him to his own age group, and ground being testing. Wexford was just soft. But when you get this weekend, when it's heavy, I don't think when you go from a track like Wexford over 2.5, going to a bit more galloping track like Gorn and more testing ground, I don't think it'll be a problem.
That was on Bank Holiday weekend down in Wexford, owned by Jim Coffey, and Jim was obviously delighted then to get a second winner the following day on the Monday with Fortune Street, who was maybe, like you said, with Our Friend, probably maybe didn't beat a whole lot, but he was impressive the way he won the bumper for Barry O'Neill that day.
He was. Jim likes to target certain meetings that suit him. He's got a holiday home in Ballygarrett, so not far away, and he likes to come down to those Wexford meetings and have some runners, and he's been lucky down there. Same as Leopardstown, because it's his local track, and that's where he had his biggest winner last season with Camino on the Dublin Festival. He'd be down around at Christmas time, loves Tremor, New Year's Day, those kind of things. So we try to have as many runners as we can for him, so to have the couple of winners was vital, because Jim is the sponsor of the yard. Himself and his sister Susan Spence on Sofco, and they're the sponsors, so they're fantastic to us, and it's very important to get any winners for them, but when he's there as well, it makes them even better.
And sticking with a couple of Jim's horses, Miss Milner, she was very impressive the last day. Where is she going next?
She surprised us a bit. She ran a nice race the first day. The principals on the day were just gone out the gate, and but she saw it out well. But she surprised us the last day how well she won. Sean was thrilled with the way she went to the line from the back of the last. She's a real hurdler. Might like a little bit of decent ground now. I don't know how she'd handle the winter ground. No set plan for her, because she ran 2 races there in 2 weeks. So we're kind of leaving her now for a while. She might have a run somewhere to give her more experience between now and Christmas. But she came out of it fine, but with no set plan for where she go yet.
One of Jim's other horses who you mentioned that won at the Dublin Racing Festival back in February is Camino. He's had a couple of runs back over hurdles now. He does seem very well handicapped with his mark of 109 compared to his chase mark of 137. What are plans for him going forward?
Well, sure, we were hoping that he was well handicapped, but I don't know if he is or he isn't. Sometimes I think, horses are just better at one thing than the other. No different than a 140 hurdler going chasing and ends up after.
And he is a big horse too.
And he is, and you're 122 years later. I mean, he had loads of chances over hurdles. He won a maiden, but he had loads of chances over hurdles before he went chasing, and he was just a much better chaser. It was great for Jim that he won at the Dublin Festival, and it was a good pot. And then he was subsequently third in a good novice handicap in Fairyhouse. He ran bad in Cheltenham, but the ground was gone soft. So he ran some good races last year. I wouldn't be too disappointed with his first 2 hurdle runs, because even though he might have looked well handicapped and he might have been fancying the bet and all because of it, he just, when he gets tight to a hurdle, he's awkward. Ran better in Navan the last day, but he'll freshen up now and he'll step up in trip and run the Paddy Power at Christmas. Jim would like to have some runners in Leopardstown at Christmas.
Back to where he had his biggest result.
Yeah, and even though he mightn't be very well handicapped over fences, I still think that that there might be hopefully a bit of improvement over a trip. So hopefully he could run a good race in the Paddy Power.
Castlefurrier Park, who won her on her last run in Down Royal. She had a lightweight that day. She's gone up 9 pounds since that, but I'd imagine she's well capable of going to win off that mark, going up by 9 pounds.
I hope so. I thought it was a stiff enough penalty. I don't think it was a great race in Down Royal. There was a couple of non-runners on the day. Hopefully the handicapper is right and I'm wrong. Last year she disappointed us with her jumping. She was brilliant in her point to point. She won a point to point and she jumped great. And we always thought she was a chaser, and we were delighted to win a couple of hurdles with her along the way. And she disappointed last year with her jumping, but maybe for whatever reason she just wasn't quite right. She had schooled well before Down Royal, and we fancied her a bit because of that, and she seemed well. And Sean gave her a lovely ride in Down Royal, and you could see her confidence grow throughout the race. I'd say she wants every yard of 3 miles. She's a slow mare. She wants every yard of 3 miles and couldn't have it soft enough as regards ground. She'll get an entry next week, shooting for the stars a little bit, but she'll get an entry into Porterstown over 3 miles 5, or 3.5, or 3 miles 5, whatever, against the Irish national trip next Sunday, the big day in Ferry House. Now, if she scraped into the bottom of the handicap, she would run in that. And if not, there's a stay in handicap chase in Punchestown for her a week later. But that's kind of where she lies in it. But soft ground and every yard of 3 miles, and hopefully the handicapper's right and we're wrong.
Fitzhenry ran over hurdles the last day. He's rated 134 over fences and 122 over hurdles. Will he remain at over hurdles, or will he run in the Tri-Town where he's entered?
I think the plan is that he'll run the Tri-Town on Sunday. So he looked all last year as it was a good race in him, and for whatever reason he just didn't seem to get home over all sorts of trips. But he's in good form. We're happy with him. He ran well the first day. Mark was happy with him, and he ran well in a hurdle race. He ended up in front a little bit too soon, but that's just the way the race panned out for him. But I think the intention is to run the Tri-Town on Sunday.
A horse with plenty of ability. I know we're switching back nearly a year, but he ran a cracker in the Paddy Power last year.
He was third in the Paddy Power, and the season before he won that big novice handicap in Naas, and he was second in the novice final in Navan. So he's already won some nice pots. But hopefully along the way he can be very competitive in those handicaps, like again Paddy Powers and all those races, and on Sunday.
John Brennan, who you mentioned, that owns Valentina Lady. He also owns Monotype, who he's had a couple of good days with as well. He's had a couple of runs on the flat. What are his plans going forward?
Yeah, he was struggling to get him back to form. He had a moderate season last year. He probably had a very tough year the year before. He winning a few hurdle races. He had some real dour battles in testing conditions, and then last year he went over fences and he was a bit disappointing. Ran some okay races, but still a little bit disappointed, maybe a little bit careful to jump his fences. Very disappointed in his return to the flat. So we're I suppose you could say we're struggling to get him to rekindle. We're mixing things with him to see can we get a bit of spark back in him. It's possible that his next run might be over fences. He wants very testing ground. So we might find another hurdle race for him between now and Christmas, and maybe go down for a handicap chase or beginners or something in the middle of Christmas. But at the moment, form is just a little bit disappointing.
A horse that John's involved in as well that he has recently purchased is For Talk's Sake, a Coastal Path 4-year-old. He was second in a point-to-point in Lingstown early on in the year, and then he was very impressive in Loughrea not long ago under Rob James for Colombo, and you have recently purchased him, and he's entered in a EVF auction bumper. I think it's for under 35,000 what they were bought.
45,000. I think it is, yeah.
He's a lovely horse.
Very nice horse. Very happy with him. He goes well. Lovely horse to ride, and great temperament and lovely attitude and all the rest. How good he is, I don't know. Colombo would know more about him than we would. I mean, he trained with his point to point, and it's not that long ago. He settled into our place quickly and settled in well. He's in that auction bumper, and he'll also be putting the 4-year-old bumper on the Sunday in Ferry House, and we'll see. He's possible for Tuesday. He goes well, but we're very pleased with him, but at the same time we haven't brought him away to gallop on grass or anything, so any more than that I can't say at the moment, but he's a very nice horse.
Anything else there that stands out for you at home that I haven't talked about? Any young horses to look forward to?
We have some exciting young horses. Well, we hope so anyway. You know yourself, the dream is alive at home anyway. But we have some horses that have done some really nice pieces of work. A few fillies that are very exciting. Obviously, we lost a very good mare in Fairy House the other day. Artis Words, yeah, that was a killer for the yard. We're only trying to come to terms with her the last couple of days because I know it was only a maiden hurdle or whatever, but she
was very exciting, wasn't she?
Very exciting, yeah. Real chaser, and we were shocked by it. But anyway, that's racing, unfortunately. But we've a few nice fillies. We've a filly called Jeremy's Jewel, a Jeremy filly who's a very nice filly. It was bought out of Aidan Fitzgerald's and goes very well. We have a no risk at all filly called Fire of Love, and these fillies have been to school and races and stuff, and they're nice. They go.
They're ready to go soon enough then.
Yeah, I suppose Christmas time maybe. That's the kind of the plan. And there's a few nice young horses as well. But yeah, no, it's an exciting time for us because it was so important that some of those horses, you'd say, when they come out now, we're going to run good races because we have some ones that have worked with those away from home, and that makes it exciting.
It is Thursday, so when I say this, the declarations will be done for Saturday, but if they both line up, who do you think will win between Surname and Altior?
I'd be an Altior man. Yeah, without a doubt. Just love the horse. Yeah, I'd go with Altior.
And Vi Allen or Andy Dufresne, if you could pick one to train, which one would you choose over the other?
God, I think that's a question for Gordon. I don't know. The two of them are very impressive looking. Very, very impressive looking. I don't know. I know the Gordon thinks the world of both, and I suppose we've seen more of Envy Allen, so it's easier for us to say maybe Envy Allen, but I thought Andy Dufresne looks something out of the ordinary as well, so it's a tough question. I wouldn't like to say.
Good position for Gordon to be in anyway.
It is fantastic, great stock,
yeah. Listen, James, thanks very much for that, and best of luck on Sunday with this Kurama, and for the rest of the season with the other horses.
So, thanks, Dave.